Hey guys, welcome to the channel. This is part 3 of What If Naruto was teleported in Konosuba. If you guys enjoy this what if, then comment, like and subscribe. Let's go. Also the video goal is 10 likes, so let me know that you're interested in the series and you want the next part. Then go ahead and check out the other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave. Also share the video with your friends and link in the description. So let's go. Darkness, huh? She kept looking at me like she was expecting me to do something. What a weird person. Naruto thought as he walked back towards the town with his hands crossed behind his head. His first impression of Darkness was that she was a clumsy knight that couldn't swing a sword for her life. Although she seemed like a nice person and was very pretty. But I'm still concerned about that smile. He thought as he heard a thumping noise, and he saw a giant toad hopping across the field a couple meters in front of him. Naruto frowned. How could the people of this town want to kill such a harmless creature? He knew the giant toads in this world were completely different than the ones from his home and held little to no sentience, but couldn't they just move them without killing them? Seeing the toads here reminded Naruto just how much he missed Gamakichi and the other toads back at Mount Myoboku. I wonder how they're all doing right now. Ma and Pa, the chief toad, Gamaken, Gama. What's with those clouds? Up in the sky, an ominous swirl of dark clouds was beginning to form. Naruto then felt a great collection of energy that he could only assume was mana off in the distance. Looking for the owner of the mana, Naruto saw a young girl wearing red clothes and a black cape with a matching black witch's hat. She seemed to be aiming right at the toad. Naruto's eyes widened when he realized the mage's intentions, but he was too late. The girl opened her mouth, and all hell broke loose. Explosion. Boom. A deafening sound roared, and the toad was consumed in a volume of fire. The wind caused by the explosion swept Naruto off the ground and blew him back a few feet, but he dug his hands into the grassy terrain and somehow managed to keep himself from tumbling away. Naruto squinted his eyes as he watched the combustion incinerate the field in front of him. Finally, as the wind died down, Naruto was allowed to relax. There was now an enormous crater just 15 meters in front of him. The remains of the toad were nowhere to be seen. Naruto blinked. He blinked twice. Until finally, hey, just where the hell do you think you're aiming that spell? Also, why would you use such a powerful technique on a toad? That was way past overkill. Naruto shouted angrily at the red-clothed mage and started running towards her to exact revenge, only to skid to a stop when the girl suddenly collapsed. Hey, are you okay? He asked and crouched down and poked the back of the little girl who was now lying face down in the grass. Yes, it was a long-fought battle, but I somehow managed to use the rest of my mana in that first and final gambit. I see you were almost caught in the explosion. My apologies, I get very excited when using that spell. The girl's muffled voice explained. I see, no, I guess it's fine. But you should watch where you're firing that spell, you could kill someone with that much firepower. Naruto stuttered, but Ultimate scolded the girl for her reckless behavior. Hey, a sacrifice or two would be nothing more than a tribute to Megumin, who was likely a god of destruction in a past life. Well, this sacrifice is about to leave you to be toad food if you don't stop talking nonsense, oh great god of destruction. Naruto responded with a twitching eyebrow, then grabbed Megumin's staff and proceeded to lightly bop the girl on the head. Megumin's head shuffled awkwardly in response, and Naruto assumed that was her nodding. At that moment, they heard footsteps approaching and a familiar voice shouted. Megumin, we have 2 more toads left. Use your spell again on the farther one while Aqua is distracting the other one. Oh, Naruto. What are you doing here, hey? What did you do to Megumin? Kazuma shouted and rushed over to them upon seeing the state of his party member. At first glance, it looked like Naruto had just mugged a little girl by beating her with her own equipment. Wait, I didn't do anything. This kid almost hit me with that explosion before collapsing on her own. Naruto shouted back while pointing at the mage with the staff. If Kazuma was here, then that would mean this kid was likely a new member of his and Aqua's party. Who are you calling a kid? If my mana wasn't depleted, I would. Megumin barked in a dark voice when Kazuma interrupted her. Wait, what do you mean your mana's depleted? You only used 1 spell. Don't tell me you're just as useless as Aqua. Speaking of Aqua, where was that girl? Ah, Kazuma said Aqua was distracting one of the toads. Which probably means. Naruto thought and walked off to find the girl that was likely being eaten by a toad. How rude to assume I'm useless. Though it is regrettable, I can only use that spell once by using all my mana, which leaves me too exhausted to move. But being paralyzed from the neck down after casting is a small price to pay for the ultimate power that is explosion magic. Megumin's muffled voice was defiant despite being face down in the grass. Kazuma's face paled. A mage that could only use her spell once a day. A spell that couldn't even be used inside a cave or a building, much less a town. Such impractical magic, this mage sounded absolutely useless. A thumping sound brought Kazuma out of his thoughts, and he saw one of the toads coming towards them. Oh no, the other toad is almost here. Naruto, help us out while you're here, Kazuma's words trailed off when he noticed the self-proclaimed ninja was nowhere to be found. Where did the only person that could fight go? Since I cannot move, my body will inevitably be consumed by that toad. I leave it to you to save MFF. Megumin said before she was consumed, her legs sticking out of the toad's mouth. If they weren't in a dire situation, it would have been a comical sight. Kazuma gulped as he drew his short sword. Why did this world keep throwing all these obstacles at him? Wasn't he supposed to be the hero that would eventually slay the Demon King? Then why was he sent to a beginner town with no money, no weapon, and a goddess lol that was only useful for her party tricks? Adventurers Guild. Just as Naruto predicted, Aqua had been caught and almost swallowed by the giant toad. After smacking the toad and calming the crying girl, Kazuma had shown up with a slimy Megumin on his back. While they were on their way to the bathhouse, Megumin and Kazuma had an argument. Naruto didn't quite hear what they were talking about, only managing to catch something about how Megumin was willing to do anything to be in their party, and then Kazuma eventually agreeing to let her join. Now sitting inside the Adventurers Guild, Naruto and Kazuma ordered some drinks as they waited for the girls. So, looks like you got yourself a troublesome new party member. Naruto teased Kazuma, who decided to order a bubbly. How old was this guy anyway? Kazuma didn't look that much younger than him, maybe a year. But that wasn't any of Naruto's business, so he let it go. Troublesome is putting it lightly. That girl can only use one spell a day, and while that spell is incredibly strong, I don't see much use of it. Kazuma said with a sigh and grabbed a menu. Naruto laughed, finding himself in agreement with the guy's points. But that spell was impressive, I bet it could one-shot all of the monsters in this area. I wonder how that kid was able to produce such an explosion. Again, who are you calling a kid? Are you picking a fight with me? Megumin, who had just entered the guild hall with Aqua, said as the two sat down on the other side of the table. Aqua immediately called a waitress and ordered some food. Put that on Naruto's tab please. Aqua added upon finishing her order, prompting Naruto to loudly stand up. Hey, wait a second. Why is it my treat when I saved you? Again. If anything, you should be treating me. Not to mention how bad you smelled from the slime. Naruto shouted angrily, and Aqua shrugged nonchalantly. Think of it as a small price to pay for having the privilege of holding a goddess in your arms. You should be thanking me since I decided not to tell the others where you accidentally touched. Double order for the lady. Naruto quickly shouted to the waitress when Aqua started saying unnecessary things, and the priestess squealed in delight. That girl, even though she had been crying and gripping onto his leg while thanking him. It's not his fault he touched her butt when he caught her. Feeling the gazes of the other two people at the table, Naruto coughed into his hand and turned to Kazuma. By the way, where did you go after we dropped the girls off at the bathhouse? You said you had something to do, but you came back rather quickly. The blonde asked with suspicious eyes, and Kazuma averted his gaze. You probably went back to kill that toad, didn't you? Then that means I unintentionally assisted in a murder. Hey, let go. What do you mean by murder? Killing toads is our quest, why didn't you just let me kill it earlier? Kazuma barked when the shinobi lunged at him. Why does it matter if a few giant toads are killed? They're eating the livestock of the farms and sometimes even people. Megumin stated with a raised eyebrow. But more importantly, toad meat is delicious. By the way, Kazuma went back and killed the toad you knocked out the first time you saved me as well. Aqua chimed in while taking a bite out of the fried toad meat in her hands. No, don't say that. Naruto shouted and covered his ears to keep himself from hearing any more. He knew the toads in this world were treated as monsters, but he couldn't bring himself to slay one. Just being a part of the killing of one filled him with guilt. I've been wondering for a while now, but who is this man? Is he also a part of this party? Megaman asked while studying the blonde. He's not part of our party, but our invitation is still up on the board. Fair warning though, you might get covered in slime. Kazuma re-extended his offer to Naruto, and the blonde scratched at his whisker marks in thought. I guess it wouldn't hurt to form a party with you guys. After all, Luna-chan has been telling me to form a party for safety reasons since I first got here. Ah, but I'm not killing any toads. Naruto said with a chuckle of his own, and Kazuma sighed in relief. Thank goodness, with Naruto in the party, now I won't have to worry about those people as much. Hey, who are those people you are talking about? I'd really like to meet them. Megaman asked, her expression turning dark. So Aqua, no objections. Kazuma averted his gaze and turned to the archpriest. Aqua gulped down the food she had been munching on and held her hand out. Not really, but let me see your adventurer's card, Naruto. I'm curious as to what your job and stats are, she said, and Naruto fished the card out of his pocket and handed it over before turning back to Kazuma. Well, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how I feel about joining your party. I have a feeling I'm gonna keep getting swindled out of all my money. Not to mention that little girl with too much firepower. But I'm sure we'll get along just fine. What's this, are you picking a fight with me too? Don't think for a second that I'm afraid of fighting two boys at the same time, I'll take you both on. Megaman stated with a dark expression and cracked her knuckles. This kid sure has a lot of spunk. Naruto thought while laughing awkwardly. Kind of reminds me of a certain loudmouthed brat that had a short fuse. Still does. Kurama's voice added, and Naruto was about to give the fox a piece of his mind when Aqua suddenly looked up from the card. Rejected. X2. Naruto and Kazuma both shouted in disbelief. The invitation clearly states one must have an advanced job if they wish to join. That's why I allowed Megaman to join, who is an arch-wizard. Aqua explained while gesturing to the mage. Just what is that girl thinking? Is she still mad about Naruto rejecting her invitation last time? Kazuma thought with a twitching eyebrow. What's with you? You were pretty much begging me to join your party this morning, what happened to that? Naruto yelled and slammed his hands on the table to emphasize his frustration, but Aqua merely looked the other way. I changed my mind. My party doesn't need two useless adventurers. Useless. I saved you from being eaten by giant toads. Twice. I can't believe you turned out to be this kind of person, and to think I thought you looked really cool in the graveyard back then, give me my admiration back. Naruto said and reached his hand out expectedly to Aqua, who smacked it away. Ah, were you watching me at that time? Are you that obsessed with me? You said you were a ninja, but I didn't think you'd go as far as stalking me from the shadows. Who's a stalker? As the two bickered, Kazuma looked back and forth between both combatants with a look of disbelief. Things were finally starting to lighten up. How did this happen? Geez, get a room you two. Megaman muttered with a sigh, then flinched when both Naruto and Aqua directed their wrath towards her. Who would share a room with this stalker? For all I know, he'd probably steal my panties every night and giggle perversely while dancing around like an idiot. Aqua claimed while sending the ninja a scornful look. Like hell I would. What in the world gave you the idea that I would do something like that? Do you even wear panties? I can't even tell. Naruto shouted while shaking his head profusely. Aqua gasped and placed both hands over her rear. He admits it. This man has taken the path of a pervert. He truly is a devil. Don't worry, I'll purify it now. Who are you calling an it? And I told you before, I'm not a devil. Stop trying to purify me. Naruto demanded and threw his empty tankard at Aqua, who sidestepped the projectile with a snicker. How's that? I can sense a great deal of malice coming from you again, devil. Now do you understand the power of a goddess? The malice that Aqua was referring to was coming from none other than Kurama, who had just taken the full brunt of Aqua's consistent purification spells. Kill this brain-dead woman. Or better yet, give me the reins so that I may do it myself. Calm down, Kurama, I think people are starting to feel your presence. Naruto thought in an attempt to calm the enraged-tailed beast, but it was too late. He could already hear the whispers floating around the guild. Hey, did she just say devil? I always thought Naruto was just a delinquent that was working hard to impress Luna-san, but is he actually a devil? No way. Naruto lowered his head, his bangs covered his eyes as the rumors began to spread. Hey Aqua, aren't you taking this a little too far? Kazuma started but was cut off when Megumin pointed her staff at Naruto, her eyes glowing. I do sense demonic energy coming from this man, why is that? Explain yourself, or I may just cast explosion magic to destroy you right here and now. Megumin claimed, and some of the guild members who were familiar with the mage began to panic. The Crimson Demon smirked triumphantly, clearly enjoying the chaos she had stirred. Didn't you say you could only cast explosion once a day? You used it earlier. Kazuma retorted, which caused the panic to immediately die down. Megumin began to sweat profoundly while maintaining her fierce expression. Naruto sighed. He was hoping to keep Kurama a secret a little longer, but he now realized it was pointless. Might as well get this over with. With the entire hall's attention on him, Naruto hopped onto a table and took a deep breath. With a confident grin, he made his announcement. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I come from a faraway village of ninja. When I was a baby, the leader of my village sealed a nine-tailed fox demon inside me. But there's no need to worry, because Kurama's my friend. Naruto shouted, causing many eyes to widen in surprise. Nonetheless, he continued, I don't care if any of you believe me right now, because I'm gonna prove myself to this world. I'm going to be the one to defeat the Demon King. This caused an uproar of chatter throughout the guild. Some incredulous, others straight up laughing at the outrageous claim. But the suspicions seemed to have died down a little at the very least. Kazuma stared at the blonde with wide eyes. Right now, Naruto was acting like a protagonist straight out of an anime or manga. As much as he hated to admit it, this sparked a fire in the pit of Kazuma's stomach. He couldn't be outdone by a fellow player. Grinning widely from his handiwork, Naruto hopped down from the table and started walking towards the exit. He had some ramen to make. But someone grabbed the sleeve of his jacket and Naruto looked down to see Megumin staring up at him with sparkling eyes. That declaration was inspiring. I, too, hope to defeat the Demon King one day and carve my name in history. That is why I traveled to this town to form a party with people who shared the same goal. The young girl proclaimed. This kid may be a short-fused firecracker, but at least she has some decent goals. Naruto thought with a smile. Kazuma sighed in relief. It looked like Naruto was going to form a party with Megumin. Kazuma was hoping Naruto would join his party, but at least he only had to worry about one problem child Agai. Then that makes us rivals. Don't expect me to go easy on you just because you're a kid. As the genius prodigy of the Crimson Demon clan, I wouldn't have it any other way. Kazuma gawked at Naruto and Megumin. Aqua, let's have a race to see who can beat the Demon King first. Naruto then said pointed at the archpriest. Ha! As if a mere stalker would pose a threat to the great me. But, being the kind goddess that I am, I'll humor you. You're on. Aqua responded with her chest puffed out and let out a haughty laugh. Naruto chuckled, then turned to leave the guild to find a chef willing to teach him the cooking skill. As the hall shifted back to its former state, Kazuma finally snapped out of his stupor and started panicking. At this rate, he was going to be stuck with these two children all by himself. Aqua, apologize quickly. Naruto's going to leave. Don't wanna. Naruto made his choice, not that I would have accepted him in the party anyway. Aqua said while looking away with a HMPH, then went back to conversing with Megumin. This girl, Kazuma thought while grinding his teeth together. Now he was going to be left behind with these two nut jobs. Not long after Naruto left, a tall, blonde-haired woman clad in armor walked up to their table. Is this the party that was said to have walked through town with girls covered in slime? Why yes. Kazuma stuttered due to the sudden appearance of the beautiful knight. Did people really talk about their party? He hoped there weren't any bad rumors about him. The pretty woman then let out a ragged breath and gained a dangerous look in her eyes, a look that Kazuma did not like. My name is Darkness, and I wield the job of crusader. Please let me join your party and use me as a meat shield against whatever caused that slime. Hearing this, Aqua and Megumin joined the conversation. Oh, We needed a vanguard in our party. Isn't this great, Kazuma? Welcome to the party, darkness. Naruto, wait for me. Don't leave me behind with these people. Ah. X3. Why can't I make it right? Naruto mumbled to himself. He was sitting while resting his head on the edge of the table inside of Wiz's magic item shop. He roughly remembered how to make the noodles, and even knew most of the ingredients by heart. Heck, miso soup was reasonably common in this world. Yet, Naruto just couldn't quite get it. So far, Naruto was able to make a decent soup, and his noodles were getting there in firmness. But whenever he tried to put it all together with vegetables and meat, the flavors were always wrong. Also, the vegetables in this world were sentient for whatever reason and a real nuisance. Naruto had been socked in the face by an onion when he first went grocery shopping. You'll get it next time for sure. I just know it, Wiz sportingly said before getting back to tearing through her third bowl of Naruto's failure ramen with great haste. But I don't think this is bad at all. Naruto-san is quite talented. More please. Thanks, Wiz, here you go. Naruto absent-mindedly said and pushed the fourth and final bowl over to her without looking. He ended up making quite a bit of ramen that morning and they were at least edible by his standards, so he decided to bring the extras to the store for Wiz who had returned from her business trip. So, they closed the store for a lunch break. You sure were hungry, it's like you haven't eaten solid food since you left. Naruto jokingly said and Wiz flinched. Why yes, it was quite a long carriage ride, and I forgot to bring snacks. How careless of me, the lich responded in a monotone voice. Naruto looked up and narrowed his eyes on the gluttonous girl who suspiciously slowed down. I thought you said you couldn't get to that village on a carriage. Don't tell me, have you not eaten anything since you left? Wiz gulped her food down hard before sighing. Naruto-san saw right through me, because the business isn't doing too well, I've been cutting back on things to save money. I've been skipping out on 1 or 10 meals a week. So Wiz's financial situation was worse than he thought. He'd have to think of some ideas fast or. Naruto blinked. Wait, did you say 10? Wiz, you can't seriously have been starving yourself, have you? Wiz frantically waved her hands dismissively. It's not a big deal. Honestly. Because I'm a lich, I won't die even if I starve. Though, I would eventually lose all my flesh. That last part unnerved Naruto as he imagined the woman in front of him turning into a skeleton, but he quickly dismissed the thought and returned to the matter at hand. But you still feel hunger, right? The feeling of being hungry all the time, I can't let the kind and honest to a fault Wiz feel like that. Besides, if Wiz's body withers away and turns into a skeleton, how else are we going to attract customers to the store? I appreciate your concern, but are you complimenting or insulting me? Wiz asked with a crooked. Naruto laughed at the girl's expression, then stood up and gathered the empty bowls on the table. It was then an idea came to him. Hey, I know. I'll just bring you ramen for lunch or dinner like I did today. Wiz stood up after the blonde made such a generous offer. I can't possibly trouble Naruto-san to do that. Your help at the store is already too much since I can't pay you. It wouldn't be any trouble at all. I've been making too much ramen during my experiments anyway, so I'll just save you some bowls. You get fed, I get to make more ramen, it's a win-win for both of us. Naruto claimed with a wave of his hand. He then walked over to the counter and stashed the bowls on one of the shelves. He'd take them back to the inn after they closed shop for the day. Honestly, if you keep doing nice things for me like this, I might just misunderstand something. Wiz mumbled and lowered her head while twiddling her thumbs, a small smile on her lips. Naruto tilted his head to the side. Misunderstand what? I told you I'm doing this because you're my friend and I want to help you. Alright, of course. Wiz smiled wryly. The shopkeeper then sat down at the table as Naruto picked up the broom and started sweeping the entrance. Naruto-san, if I may ask, why are you helping me so much? I haven't done a single thing for you, I even caused you some trouble when we first met, and please don't say it was because you consider me a friend. The lich asked, prompting the shinobi to stop sweeping and smile sadly in remembrance. I guess, seeing how hard you work for this store really struck home for me. You could have just given up the store when business didn't do so well, but you put your heart and soul into coming up with new plans and ideas. In the end, your debt seems to increase the harder you work, and you're too kind to ask others for help. Naruto explained before he looked Wiz in the eyes. That's why I want to help you with this store. I don't want to see all your hard work go down the drain, just because of some stupid red digits. Although those red digits likely came from a little more than bad luck, but Naruto kept that to himself. Wiz averted her gaze by lowering her head again. I see, thank you, Naruto-san. I'll be sure to repay you someday. You want to repay me? Learn how to make ramen that tastes like Ichiraku ramen. Naruto said mostly as a joke, but recoiled in surprise when Wiz was suddenly in his face with stars in her eyes. I don't know what an Ichiraku is, but I'll try my best. Wiz declared confidently. Naruto laughed nervously and gently pushed the girl out of his personal bubble. That sounds great, I'll teach you all I know some other time. But right now, we have more pressing matters to attend to, right? Oh, yes, of course. I'll go get some of the merchandise I brought back from my trip. Wiz exclaimed before running to the back room. She then returned with a box and placed a few items on the table. Naruto walked over to the table and picked up a scroll. What's this? That's a magical scroll that lights up when you read the contents inside. It doesn't require any mana to use it, and it only costs 10,000 aris. Wiz explained with an excited tone. Oh, this one might actually sell well. There are a few dungeons close to town, and people could use this when they go inside. Wait a second, how would they be able to read the scroll if it's too dark inside the dungeon? Naruto asked when he realized a flaw in the magical scroll, and Wiz hummed in thought. There is a skill that allows one to see in the dark. It's useless. Naruto interrupted Wiz and was about to tear the defective magic item in half when the girl grabbed onto his arms with teary eyes. Wait. They could just activate the scroll before they go inside the dungeon. Although the scroll only lights up for a couple minutes, so by the time they activate it and go inside No. It's gonna tear. It's gonna tear. Later that day, Kazuma walked through the streets of Axel with eyes void of light. Why you ask? You did great distracting those toads, Darkness. Thanks to you, I was able to blast 3 of them at the same time. We completed our quest 2 times over, and I even gained a level. Megaman exclaimed, who was being carried by darkness because Kazuma didn't want to be covered in mucus. The way each toad spit me out in disgust, and the feeling of being covered in the mucus of 3 different toads is too much. Darkness said with a shudder, but the redness in her cheeks and ragged breaths gave away her true feelings. Although they were only noticed by Kazuma. I was spot on, this girl is a complete masochist. Kazuma thought as he watched Megaman and Darkness converse. After they completed their quest, the two hit it off and were getting along quite well. This was trouble for the boy because they also got along with Aqua, which meant they wouldn't be going anywhere from now on. He was stuck with these 3 girls. Usually, a guy would kill to be in a party with 3 good-looking women. But not these 3. Darkness had tossed her sword to the side and jumped in front of all 3 of those toads that confronted them, claiming she would distract them until Megaman's spell was finished. Then, while Kazuma had somehow managed to retrieve Darkness from the monsters, Megaman unleashed her spell. The explosion drew the attention of more toads, one of which hopped over and ate Megaman since she couldn't move, and Kazuma had to rush over and help her since Darkness was apparently in too much bliss to move. During that time, Aqua had somehow managed to get herself eaten by a 5th toad and had been crying the whole way home. But I was surprised by Megaman's power as well. Who knew this town had an arch-wizard that wielded such powerful magic? Darkness praised the little girl, and Megaman was now brimming with pride. We should retake this quest. Next time, I'll incinerate 5 toads with 1 spell. No, I don't wanna be eaten by toads anymore. I'm tired of getting covered in slime. Aqua wailed and turned to Kazuma for help. It seemed she was traumatized from her constant near-consumption experiences. Tell them, Kazuma. Tell them why we can't do that quest anymore. Aqua pleaded with tears and mucus running down her face, and the boy had to take a step back from her. She's making me come up with an excuse for her. How annoying. Kazuma thought just as he plugged his nose in disgust. The group stopped in front of the local bathhouse. We'll meet up at the Adventurers Guild after you guys wash up. I'll turn in the quest, and we can split the reward when you're all back. That being said, Kazuma began to slowly make his way towards the Adventurers Guild. You're not going to tell them why? How useless. I guess it's to be expected by the only one in the party who's not covered in slime. The NEET with the weakest job couldn't do anything other than run away until the last second to steal the kill. Aqua claimed and laughed to herself. Kazuma spun on his heel and blew his top off. Are you kidding me? Who ran away? You were completely useless this time around. You ran away the moment the toads showed up, and you couldn't even do that right because you got yourself eaten anyway. Huh, well, maybe you should have protected your healer better. And you call yourself a gamer. Protecting the healer is the most important rule of a game. Puheaheahe. Aqua sneered and giggled into her sleeve. Why you? Kazuma was about ready to pounce on Aqua but stopped himself when he remembered the girl was covered in toad slime. Aqua must have realized this and began to laugh at the boy tauntingly. At this point in time, Darkness and Megaman walked into the bathhouse while continuing their conversation as their other two party members argued. Maybe I should have just let Naruto into my party. He may have the adventurer job too, but at least he can fight, unlike a certain useless Hiki NEET. Aqua said and started laughing again to add extra salt to the wound. Kazuma growled. That was the last straw, this girl needed to be taught a lesson. To hell with the toad slime. Come here, you bitch. The angry boy yelled and pounced on the brunette. Wah! Kazuma's finally snapped. Help! Wait Kazuma. I'm sorry. Please let go of my Hagoromo, Kazuma-san. Aqua begged when Kazuma began to pry the floaty pink cloth from her person. I remember you bragging about how this thing is worth a mountain of Aris. I'm gonna sell it so that I don't have to go through another life-threatening situation again. Wahaha tilde. Stop it. This is the only thing I have left to prove I'm a goddess. Please don't sell it, Kazuma-sama. Just as Kazuma was about to strip the Hagoromo from Aqua's grasp, someone walked up to them. Hey! The two stopped and looked up to see Naruto staring at them with a concerned look on his face. What are you two doing, and why is Aqua covered in slime? Did you get eaten again? Yeah, she did, and this girl had the nerve to call me useless. She escaped, Kazuma said when Aqua took advantage of the distraction to break out of his grasp. Kazuma tried to grab her again, but he slipped on the toad mucus and fell on the ground with a thud. Aqua scrambled to Naruto and grabbed onto his leg for dear life, causing the boy to flinch as soon as the mucus stench hit him. Naruto. Naruto. This man has finally lost control. He was no longer satisfied with sniffing my hair at night in the stables and attacked me. He even claimed he would sell my most valuable possession. Hey, let go. You're covered in slim weight. He did what now? Naruto said and sent Kazuma a flat look. Huh, like hell I'd get excited over sniffing this girl's hair. Huh, I don't even see her as a woman. If you've seen her sleeping habits, you would agree with me. Kazuma barked while sneering at the sniffling archpriest. He didn't deny it. I didn't think Kazuma was that kind of guy. I guess you really can't judge a book by its cover. Hey, why are you looking at me with such pitiful eyes? You know this woman's personality. She'll take advantage of your kindness whenever she gets a chance, and keep doing it until you have nothing left. Kazuma said in a desperate attempt to keep Naruto from siding with the enemy. Aqua huffed in annoyance. How rude. I haven't used you at all since we got here. Naruto's treated me way better than you have, and he isn't even the one who forced me to come to this world. I should just leave you and form a party with Naruto. Maybe then I'll have a chance at getting home. Huh, no way. Why would I want to form a party with you after you said all those things? That happened yesterday, ya know. Naruto said with a straight face, and Aqua face planted on the pavement. Why can't you just form a party with me? Yesterday you were going to join. Then you said all that dumb stuff about advanced job classes only, blah blah blah, so I changed my mind. Naruto retorted and wiped the slime off his tattered pants. Luna had been an angel, offering to stitch his poor jacket. But he really needed to get some new clothes. Aqua gripped her skirt tightly and began to sniffle. Sniff. Ever since I was brought to this world, everything and everyone has been against me. Wahaha tilde. Shoot, maybe I went a little too far, now she's crying. Naruto thought when the girl at his feet began to cry. With the addition of being covered in slime, Aqua's state was just too pitiful. On the other hand, Kazuma snickered as he watched Aqua bawl her eyes out. Divine retribution was sweet. But then, hey, look over there, that girl is crying. She's covered in slime. What did those boys do to her? They both have such mean looks in their eyes, scary. Naruto and Kazuma looked at each other with wide eyes when they heard the people nearby chattering amongst themselves. And no, you got it all wrong. I was just hey, Kazuma. This is your fault, so do something about it. Me? How is this my fault? You're the one who made her cry. Kazuma shot back when the blame was pinned on him. Wah. It's always like this. During the day, I'm followed by this stalker who has an obsession with me. At night, I can't sleep because I'm worried about the other man doing weird things to me while I'm asleep. What should I do? Quote exclamation mark quote. X2. Naruto and Kazuma began to sweat bullets when the stares from the people watching turned into scornful ones. They looked at Aqua and saw the girl secretly held a smug look under her hands as she continued her act. Why you little, don't think for a second I'm afraid of retaliating from this. Your act won't fool me. Kazuma barked with a raised fist, and Aqua's wailing intensified along with the murmuring audience. Wah! To yell at a crying girl, how cruel. What scum. Trash. Stop it Kazuma, you're not helping. Hey, stop crying Aqua. I'll treat you to some Neroid juice when we go to the guild. I'm just about to turn in a quest so you can order as much as you want. How does that sound? Naruto offered in an attempt to make peace with the girl. Being called a delinquent was annoying enough as it was, he didn't want to be downgraded to being called a perverted delinquent. Wah, sniff. Can I order wine? This girl. Naruto thought with a twitching eyebrow, but strained a smile and nodded. Why yes. Of course. Now, go wash up, and we can go to the Adventurers Guild. Honestly, it was like talking to a child throwing a temper tantrum. Aqua nodded and picked herself off the ground. I guess I'll let you off the hook this time Naruto, but you better talk some sense into that man standing next to you. You seriously think'll MMF? Kazuma was about to put the girl who was spouting such ridiculous nonsense in her place when Naruto covered his mouth. I will. Enjoy your bath, Naruto said, and Aqua happily skipped into the bathhouse to wash the slime off. Kazuma smacked the blonde's hand from his mouth and growled. What are you doing? You're just falling for that girl's trap again. Listen, Naruto. I've been around that devil in a goddess's skin a lot longer than you have, so I know what I'm talking about when I say Aqua's taking advantage of you. You have to put her in her place before she takes it too far. Oh, I know. Which is why I'm going to teach that girl a lesson. Naruto responded with a devilish smile. Kazuma grew nervous when he saw this new side of Naruto. His impression of the blonde was that of an all-around nice guy who had a loud mouth, but this smile spelled trouble. What kind of lesson? That, my friend, is a secret. Foo. Naruto began to rub his hands together, a few chuckles escaping his lips. Now the delinquent looks like he's plotting something. I feel bad for that poor girl. Naruto gained a tick mark on his forehead. Who's calling me a delinquent? I haven't vandalized a single thing in this town. Wah, we made him angry. Run away. Kazuma looked at the grumbling Naruto with a mixed expression. Just what did he have planned for Aqua? Naruto claimed to be a ninja, and ninjas were assassins. Should he be worried? Waitress. More wine please, and put it on Naruto's tab like usual tilde. The noisy Aqua ordered while slamming the table obnoxiously. This would be her third bottle of expensive wine, bringing the earnings Naruto had acquired from his last quest down to zero. Why yes ma'am. The waitress said with a strained smile and rushed off to fetch another bottle of wine, but not before sending Naruto a look of concern, and it was apparent why. Due to the amount of help Naruto had been giving Luna with durian quests, he had become quite familiar with the rest of the guild staff. Naruto just waved the girl off, as this was part of his master plan. First, he would let Aqua go wild with the wine and let her guard down. Then, hey, are you really okay with this? She's going a little overboard, and that wine's expensive. Kazuma asked worriedly, pulling Naruto out of his thoughts. That's okay. I promised I'd treat Aqua to whatever she wanted, and I'm a man who doesn't go back on his word. Besides, I have a feeling Aqua's gonna get what's coming to her real soon. Naruto responded while adding the last bit quietly so only Kazuma could hear, but Megumin noticed his expression and looked at Naruto suspiciously. I figured you were treating Aqua because you liked her or something, but you have a look that says you're planning something. The mage said, her eyes narrowing on the boy and ready to defend her party member. It's rude to make such assumptions, Megumin. Besides, Naruto doesn't seem like the type to take advantage of a woman when she's drunk and bring them home. Darkness claimed with a hint of disappointment in her tone. Naruto tilted his head. Who are you? It's me, Darkness. We met yesterday. You saved me from a silver wolf, remember? Darkness slammed her hands on the table in frustration, her cheeks burning red. Naruto laughed at his fellow blonde's outburst. Sorry, I was joking. I remember you because of your weird name. Weird. That's how you remembered me? Darkness asked, stumped on whether she should be offended or pleased. Darkness is a rather strange name. Now that you mention it, this may be a fantasy world, but the name Darkness doesn't suit you. Especially with that bright blonde hair and blue eyes. Megumin and Kazuma added, and Darkness was now blushing hard at being the center of attention. Megumin and Kazuma too. What about their names? Their names are strange, and Aqua's named after the goddess worshipped by the Axis order. Darkness said in an attempt to get the heat off her. Oh, is there something strange about my name? Tell me, I really wanna know. Megumin demanded, her eyes regaining their ominous glow. Putting the offended Crimson Magic clansman aside, Naruto shrugged. I guess I don't have a right to say anything since I'm named after a fish cake. X3. What? You wanna make fun of my name now that you know that? Don't bother, I'm used to it from my childhood. Naruto barked when the three of them began to stare at him questioningly. Hey, where did Aqua go? Kazuma asked when he noticed the brunette was missing. They found Aqua standing on top of one of the tables performing party tricks with fans and water. She was encircled by a cheerful crowd. That idiot, I still can't believe she spent all her skill points on party tricks. Kazuma said and shook his head tiredly, prompting Naruto to look at the teen in surprise. Seriously? Yeah, had she spent her skill points more wisely, she could have been the most powerful adventurer with her stats. Naruto looked over at Aqua, who seemed to be having the time of her life. Usually one would think it would be okay to do what one wanted, so long as you were enjoying life. But wasn't her goal to defeat the Demon King? Was Aqua thinking she could beat the Demon King by dazzling him to death with grand tricks and performances? No, she probably wasn't thinking at all. Oh, I almost forgot. I leveled up twice yesterday, so I was thinking about learning some new skills today. Kazuma said while looking at his adventurer's card. On the card, it showed that he had a few skill points next to his level. The adventurer job class could learn any skill from the other job classes, so the possibilities were virtually endless. Hey Megumin, how many skill points would it take to learn that spell you used yesterday? Too close. Kazuma was in the middle of asking when Megumin was suddenly all up in his face. Kazuma, do you wish to walk down the path of explosion magic together? It would be a long and difficult path for someone with the adventurer class, but I would happily walk by your side the entire way. Megumin said with more enthusiasm than one would expect to see when talking about a spell. Explosion magic is the most powerful magic known to man, it can harm literally anything. Ghosts, gods, devils, I have no shred of doubt in my mind that it can destroy even the Demon King himself. You really like explosion magic? Naruto noted with a nostalgic smile. Little by little, this kid was beginning to remind him of himself. The way she talked about explosion magic was the same as the way he used to boast about becoming the Hokage. Of course, if I had to choose between eating 3 solid meals a day and dessert after the 3rd meal, and eating 1 passable meal a day and using explosion magic, I would choose the passable meal and explosion magic with dessert without hesitation. Hey, your answer doesn't add up correctly. Kazuma pointed out, and Megumin froze in her stance. But for a second, with that being said, hey, don't just continue. Will you walk down the path of explosion with me and train to get those 50 skill points? Megumin asked while talking over the retort. After a moment, Kazuma turned towards his fellow adventurer. Hey Naruto, have you learned any skills yet? You're an adventurer like me, but you've probably leveled up a lot, so you've probably learned a few skills by now. Me? The only skill I've learned so far is the cooking skill. I wanted to learn how to make my favorite food. Naruto stated, earning a curious look from Kazuma. Favorite food? What kind of food is ack? Kazuma winced when Megumin suddenly grabbed onto his shoulder. Hard. Hey, didn't you ask me about explosion magic? Don't tell me you're getting cold feet. I don't think it would be worth my time earning all those skill points for a spell that I'd only be able to use once a day. Ouch. Ouch. Let go of me. How is your grip so strong? Kazuma painfully said when Megumin tightened her grip on his shoulder. How was such a tiny hand able to produce so much force? Megumin eventually relented and let go before turning to the other boy. Naruto. Since this man is too weak-willed to walk down the hard path of learning the spell with absolute power, will you choose to learn explosion magic? No thanks, I don't really have a need for explosion magic. Naruto said while waving his hand dismissively, and Megumin fell to her knees dejectedly. No need, he says. Rubbing his now bruising shoulder, Kazuma turned to the last person in the group he could ask for skills. He wasn't really surprised that Naruto had only learned one skill so far. After all, that guy had a cheat from the gods. Learning skills to make life easier seemed like the natural thing to do when you already had overwhelming power. Hey Darkness, what kind of skills does a crusader learn? I'm assuming defensive skills and sword techniques. Kazuma asked, turning to the front line of his party. Darkness grew flustered when asked about her job class. Well yes, you are correct. Although, I spent all of my skill points on defensive skills. So there is nothing I could teach you. Kazuma sighed. And to think my opinion of you would have risen a little bit if you had been able to teach me even a single skill. Darkness held her heart as if she had just been stabbed and fell forward, grabbing the edge of the table for support. Oh well, I was a little surprised about Naruto, but I was expecting this outcome from my party members. Looks like I'll have to learn a skill from someone else. X2. That was the final strike, and both Darkness and Megumin grew depressed expressions complete with a thundercloud raining over their heads. The path of explosion is a lonely one. To mercilessly shoot down your own party members is too much, although this treatment isn't bad. A bead of sweat rolled down Naruto's face. He couldn't tell whether Kazuma was doing it on purpose, or if he was just brutally honest. Everybody. Drinks on Naruto. Oh. Aqua shouted from her spot at the center of the guild, and her audience roared in celebration. Okay, I think she's gone far enough. Now should be a good time. Naruto thought and got up from his seat to spring things into motion. Kazuma took this as a sign from what they had been talking about earlier and watched as the shinobi approached the goddess of parties. Sorry to rain on everyone's parade, but I can't afford to treat everyone. Naruto hollered so everyone could hear, and the adventurers began to jeer. Come on man, don't be stingy. Yeah, we know you got the cash. What with all those quests you've been completing by yourself to impress Luna-san? Were the crowd's responses. No way. Why would I treat you guys anyway? All you ever do is laze around the guild and cause Luna-chan trouble. I'll treat you guys if I can go a week without having to do a single durian quest. Naruto fired back, and the other adventurers began to rise from their seats. Are you picking a fight with us now? An adventurer challenged and a particularly burly man stepped forward and grabbed Naruto by the collar. You may have surprised us last time when you put Dust in the hospital with a single punch, but don't think we'll let you off scot-free for calling us lazy. The towering man snarled down at the ninja, but Naruto's expression remained neutral. We should stop this. We should fight with him. Darkness and Megumin said at the same time, then they both looked at each other. Megumin averted her gaze, prompting the night whisper to her in a hiss. You want to fight against all those people? They're the ones picking a fight with Naruto. Besides, he may not be in our party, but he's Kazuma's friend. Right Kazuma? Megumin hissed back and turned to Kazuma, only to find the teen trying to sneak into the crowd to blend in. You were just trying to run away, weren't you? This time, it was Kazuma who averted his gaze. Hey, he was sort of friends with Naruto, were they even friends? Kazuma was still unsure. But one thing he was sure of, was that he'd get pulverized if he got involved. Naruto had a cheat, so he could take care of himself. Darkness shook her head and began to push her way to the middle of the crowd where Naruto was, but it was difficult due to how they were all now circled around the shinobi. Aqua, who just seemed to grasp the situation, clumsily hopped down from her table and stumbled over to Naruto. Oh Naruto, you're such a jokester. You were just kidding, right? You're gonna treat all these hard-working adventurers to a drink, right? The priestess asked almost pleadingly, but Naruto held his chin high and smirked. Nope. I'm dead serious. Just as the burly adventurer growled and reared back to punch Naruto in the face, a blinding light shined outside through the windows of the guild. What is that light? It's coming from outside. As the light faded, the adventurers forgot about their anger towards Naruto and ran outside to investigate. The only ones left in the guild were Naruto, Aqua, Kazuma, Megaman, and Darkness. Naruto, are you okay? Kazuma asked Naruto as the teen brushed his jacket off. Oh, so now you're concerned about your friend. Megaman mused, causing Kazuma to flinch. Anyways, let's go see what that light was. Kazuma stuttered and spun on his heel to go outside. He was shortly followed by Megaman and Darkness. Naruto turned to Aqua, who was still a little tipsy from her drinks. Wanna go check it out? At this point in time, they could hear shouts coming from outside. Aqua rubbed her eyes and blinked a couple times before nodding, and the two walked through the doors. When Aqua stepped foot outside of the guild, she saw a crowd in the middle of the streets. In the middle of the crowd was Aqua blinked. Was her vision that impaired from the alcohol? Standing at the center of the crowd was a woman with light blue hair and blue eyes. She looked just like Aqua, only this girl was wearing a frilly dress that went down to her ankles. With a color reminiscent of the deep sea, the gown shimmered with every movement like an ocean current. It looked unnatural, clearly a craft that was not capable of human hands. Hey, that girl looks just like you, Aqua. Naruto said while squinting his eyes to get a better look at the girl that was the center of attention. That's not possible. Goddess Aqua has descended. I thought the goddess of the Axis cult was a crazy lady, but I was wrong. Forgive my ignorance. Aqua-sama tilde. Aqua began to say something, but her voice drowned in the crowd's cheering. The goddess raised a delicate hand, and the crowd obediently quieted down. Hello everybody, I bid you a wonderful afternoon. I am Aqua, the goddess of water. Aqua said, and the townsfolk roared with cheers from the confirmation. Kazuma, who was staring at the woman that looked just like Aqua with wide eyes, turned to the girl he had initially come to this world with. Aqua's standing right there in the middle of the crowd, but that shouldn't be possible. I know for a fact that Aqua is the real goddess of water. Even if she doesn't act like it, she's standing right there by Naruto. Is this his doing? When the cheers died down, the goddess continued. My appearance may be rather sudden, but I heard that this town held an archpriest that is so devoted to the Axis cult, that they adopted my name, changed their appearance to look like me. I wanted to meet this archpriest in person to express how happy I am to have such a devoted follower. The divine woman said in a voice so sincere, some of the townsfolk became teary-eyed. So that's why Aqua is named after the goddess. I knew she was from the Axis cult, but this. Darkness and Megaman whispered to each other, and Aqua began to tremble. No. Amid the tear-jerking moment, Aqua screamed at the top of her lungs. Aqua took notice of the girl and clasped her hands together in delight. Ah, you must be the devoted archpriest. As the goddess of the Axis cult, it brings me so much joy to see so much devotion. No. Aqua interrupted her doppelganger while stomping her foot in frustration. Is there something wrong? Aqua asked with an awkward smile as she walked towards the shouting girl, her dress rippling like a liquid with each step. It was captivating to watch. The crowd split apart as she walked, allowing the goddess to walk straight to Aqua. Of course there's something wrong. I'm the goddess of water. I'm Aqua. Who are you, you imposter? Aqua. I realize you have a devotion to the Axis cult so strong that you have idolized Aqua-sama to a point beyond religion, but you can't seriously believe you're the actual goddess herself. Do you? Darkness said while restraining Aqua, who tried to pounce on her target. I'm not pretending to be the goddess, I am the goddess. Aqua shouted as she desperately tried to strangle the imposter, but Darkness's hold was firm. She couldn't believe this was happening. Who was this person pretending to be her, and why was everyone believing her lies? Some of the adventurers jumped in front of the goddess protectively. I'm sorry, Aqua-sama. This girl is quite unpredictable when riled up. She's known for her fancy party tricks, not her adventuring skills, so she's mostly harmless. Is that how you people see me? Aqua yelled with teary eyes before going limp in Darkness's arms. Fighting it was pointless. No one believed her, and she couldn't think of a way to. I know. If you're really the goddess Aqua, then answer this. Does Aris pat her breasts? After Aqua asked such an outrageous question out of nowhere, a majority of the crowd who were Aris cultists, looked at the girl with scornful eyes. The goddess held her warm and gentle smile. Now why would I assume such a thing? Aris is my cute Kahai who is loved by most. You shouldn't say things like that in public, you know. Aha, I knew it. You really are a faker. Aqua claimed with a triumphant look on her face, but felt a confusion when no one came to her side. I hear Axis cultists say that about Aris-sama all the time. They should learn to act more like their goddess. Such kindness. Aqua's face dropped when the crowd cheered for her doppelganger again. No, can't you see? This woman is deceiving you. Darkness, let go of me already. Stop it, Aqua. You're taking this too far. Just give it up already. Oh wow. Don't pull on my hair. While Aqua and Darkness were struggling against one another, Kazuma turned Megaman who had been strangely quiet. What do you think about all of this? He asked, and Megaman continued to stare at the goddess, who was happily conversing with the townsfolk before she spoke. I don't think that's the real goddess of water. I don't sense anything holy about her. Kazuma nodded, figuring she was sensing the mana in air. Since he didn't have any magical talent, he couldn't sense things as well as Megaman, who was an arch-wizard. Actually, I think this is Naruto's doing. Aqua's been swindling him, so he said he was going to teach her a lesson. Though I don't know how he's doing it. Megaman nodded, and they turned to the shinobi in question. I'm sorry about my friend here, she doesn't know when to stop and tends to take things a little too far. Naruto apologized with a cheeky grin and looked the girl in question while saying the last bit and winking. The goddess giggled and waved her hand dismissively. That's okay, I'm just happy to see my children have so much energy. Mizuru. Oops, looks like my verbal tick slipped, teehee. Aqua said and winked at the crowd, causing everyone to go completely silent. What the hell is Mizuru supposed to mean? Are you even trying to imitate me anymore? This is ridiculous, I don't say anything like that. Aqua ranted in rage, her ears burning bright red with a mixture of anger and embarrassment. Oh, I don't know why, but that sounds really cute. Aqua-sama is the best. Why? Feeling defeated all over again, Aqua hung loosely in Darkness's hold once more. Well then, I have completed my business here. I thank you all for your time, and please, treat this child with care, she is one of my precious devotees. I bless you all with crystal clear water. Aqua said before she leapt from the ground up and onto the roof of the Adventurers Guild, surprising everyone with the physical feat that should have been impossible with her slender frame. Then, after one final wave from the goddess of water, everyone had to cover their eyes when her form was enveloped in the same dazzling bright light from before. Aqua, who wasn't affected by the light due to her goddess vision, saw dozens of hands holding what looked to be pieces of paper over the roof before they disappeared, along with her doppelganger, in clouds of smoke as the light faded away. Free cheers for the goddess Aqua-sama. Thank you for blessing us with your presence. I was hesitant before, but maybe I'll join the Axis cult. The townsfolk were great discussion over what had just transpired, which could have been considered a once-in-a-lifetime moment. Aqua, are you okay? Darkness asked the limp girl in her arms, but Aqua only murmured to herself. Hey, it's no use, no one will believe me even if I tell them what I saw. Now I'm going to be remembered as the goddess who says weird things like, Mizuru. It's okay Aqua, we accept you for who you are. Even if you're just trying to imitate the goddess Aqua-sama. Right everyone? Naruto chimed to Aqua while patting her on the back, and the townsfolk cheered in agreement. Kazuma's mouth dropped, he finally understood what Naruto's true goal was. He still didn't know how Naruto pulled off the Aqua doppelganger, but what he did was make solid proof that Aqua wasn't the real goddess of water. Now everyone in town believed she was imitating the actual goddess's appearance out of worship. Aqua, who had tried and failed to get people to realize her identity, was now in a position where she could never get the people to know the truth. From this day onward, the people of Axel, and eventually the entire kingdom, would only see her as a devout worshipper. It was ironic in a way. Aqua's image as a goddess had been significantly boosted by Naruto, as people said they originally believed that the goddess of the supposedly twisted Axis cult was probably just as twisted. But now they saw her as a kind and gentle goddess with an odd, but cute verbal tick. The only problem was it wasn't the real Aqua that they would be worshipping, but rather a fake. Aqua had been completely and utterly destroyed, and there wasn't a single thing she could do about it now. Note to self, do not push Naruto too far. Kazuma thought and shivered when he thought about what the shinobi could potentially do to him. He turned to find Megumin trembling as well, assuming she probably came to the same conclusion. As the hype began to dwindle down, the townspeople and eventually the adventurers started going back to their previous activities. The appearance of the goddess Aqua would be the talk of Axel for many days to come. All that was left was Naruto and Kazuma's party standing in front of the Adventurers Guild. Who would have thought we'd get to meet one of the goddesses? Ah, I forgot to ask Aqua-sama to thank Aris-sama for me. Darkness moped at her missed chance at thanking the goddess she worshipped, oblivious to the truth. It's not me, it's not me, it's not me. Aqua continued to mumble to herself, her eyes dull and void of life. Well, I'm off to go complete a quest. I'll catch you guys later. Naruto announced with a salute before he disappeared in a poof of smoke. Seeing this, Aqua's eyes turned into saucers as the light returned to them. That smoke. Well, what do you know, that guy might actually be a ninja. Kazuma noted before stretching his arms out. It was only the afternoon, but he was already getting tired for some reason. Darkness turned around and pointed towards the guild. I feel strangely motivated to take on a quest. Shall we hunt more toads today? Ah, but Aqua said she didn't want to do that quest anymore. What a shame. I wanted to try that new strategy Megumin, and I came up with where I distract a dozen toads at the same time, and Megumin blasts us all away with explosion magic. I wonder if my body would be able to withstand the most powerful spell tilde. Kazuma looked at Megumin, who quickly averted her gaze. You want to use explosion magic on Darkness. I thought you two were getting along, and you want to sacrifice her for your twisted explosion fetish. Hey. She said this was the best way to test just how durable she is. I'm not going to let an offer like that slip by me because of something as weak as human morals. Besides, I thought you didn't even want Darkness in the party. Do you even hear the words coming out of your mouth? This is Darkness's life we're talking about. She may have a twisted personality, and body harder than stone, but that doesn't mean I'd send her off to die. NNG. The toad slime was good, but this verbal harassment is also pretty good too. Darkness chimed in while wrapping her arms around her body and squirming. Let's just go inside. Agreed. Kazuma and Megumin said before looking back at their final member. You coming, Aqua? No, that's okay, I'm taking the day off today. See you guys tomorrow. Aqua said and slowly began to make her way to the stables. Is she going to be okay? Megumin asked Kazuma, and the boy shrugged. She got what was coming to her, but I still feel kinda bad. Hopefully, she learned her lesson and won't try to swindle people anymore. Kazuma thought and walked into the guild with his other two party members. They wouldn't be taking on a quest without their fourth member, so they would decide what they'd be doing tomorrow. The next day. Hey, Naruto-san, did you hear? They say the goddess Aqua-sama appeared today. Although I didn't feel any surges of holy magic. Wiz chimed as she scarfed down a bowl noodles. She was sad that Naruto had only brought a single bowl of ramen this time, but wasn't in any position to complain. Naruto chuckled as he swept the entrance to the store like usual. It's true, I saw the goddess with my own eyes. I would have liked to meet her too, even if her very presence might be enough to purify me. Wiz said with a troubled expression, placing the empty bowl and utensils onto the table. Don't say something so ominous with a casual expression. Naruto said and smiled awkwardly, but that got him thinking. What would happen if Aqua, a goddess, met Wiz, who was a lich? He'd have to be careful if the two ever met. By the way, why did you buy all the illumination scrolls? I thought you said they weren't useful in the slightest. Did you perhaps change your mind? Wiz asked curiously. When Naruto had been putting the scrolls away after she had stopped him from destroying them, he suddenly requested to buy them. Wiz assumed he was just trying to help the store, but Naruto assured her that he needed them for something serious, and she eventually caved. You were right, Wiz. Those scrolls had a use after all. Apparently, you could amplify the brightness by channeling your mana into it. With enough mana, just one scroll could theoretically light up an entire town. Naruto explained, which a cheeky grin plastered on his face. Wiz tilted her head in confusion, but shrugged it off and started clearing the table. It didn't matter what Naruto used the scrolls for, so long as she had been able to help him for once. Stables. Aqua yawned as she groggily opened her eyes and looked around, the gears in her mind turning as she woke up. It was then the events of the previous day came to her. So she screamed. Ah! This was to be expected considering what had happened to her. Aqua's image as a goddess had improved, and she could feel her following rising even now, but none of it was because of her own efforts. It was all a big lie. A big, stupid, orange lie. Aqua jumped to her feet. Now wasn't the time for sleeping. She had to avenge her image as a goddess. It's good that you're feeling better, but keep it down, Aqua. Unless you want to get yelled at by our neighbors again. Aqua turned to find Kazuma laying on a pile of hay with his face hidden behind an orange object. It seemed he wasn't really listening to her at all and just wanted to shush the noise. But to see the former shut in neat with a book was strange, to say the least. Hey, what's that? I never would have thought that Kazuma would actually pick up a book. That's the first thing you say to me even after I waited until the afternoon. How rude. Whatever, it's a book I found yesterday. Since we didn't go on a quest and I had some time to kill, I walked around the town for a bit. I found this interesting book in a corner stall. Apparently, it's pretty infamous. So I decided to buy it. Kazuma explained with a twitching eyebrow before he placed a piece of straw to mark his spot in the book. He then stood up and placed the object into his back pocket. Aqua hummed in response. She didn't really care what the book may be about. Knowing that neat, it was probably just porn. Anyways, it's already past noon. The others are probably waiting for us at the guild. Kazuma said and left the stable so Aqua could change since she was still in her pajamas. After the boy left, Aqua began to undress, all the while plotting her revenge. As Kazuma and Aqua walked through the streets of Axel, they had a few run-ins with some of the townsfolk. As expected, the appearance of Goddess Aqua was the center of talk amongst the people. Good afternoon, Aqua-chan. Thank you for your hard work, Mizuru Tilda. Kazuma stifled his laughter as the townspeople greeted Aqua. But he was surprised how well kept the girl was acting. He had expected Aqua to blow her top after hearing the odd verbal tick, but she merely smiled cheerfully and waved back. While it may not have been intentional, her image as a goddess was improved. Heck, she probably gained more worshippers due to that whole scene yesterday. So maybe that girl would start acting more mature from now on. After greeting a couple more townsfolk, they walked inside and immediately found the other two colorful members of their party. Ah, Kazuma and Aqua are here. Shall we gather our metal and go hunt some toads? Darkness asked rather excitedly. Aqua's cheerful demeanor finally broke as she gained a look of horror and turned to Kazuma, but the boy just shrugged. Despite Kazuma's disapproval the day before, Darkness and Megaman had ultimately decided to go on the toad hunting quest again. Sorry Aqua, but those two wouldn't take no for an answer. Let's just go. No, I don't wanna hunt toads anymore. I hate the gross feeling of being covered in slime. Don't wanna. Aqua cut him off and began to throw her trademark tantrum in the middle of the guild. Kazuma gained a bitter expression. He was a fool to think this woman would change. Well, if it isn't Aqua, Mizuru Tilda. I didn't think you would show up today, Mizuru Tilda. The party turned to see Naruto waving at them with a cheeky grin on his face. Upon hearing the shinobi's voice, Aqua froze in her tantrum. Kazuma leaned over to Megaman and whispered. That guy, is he seriously trying to pick a fight with her this soon? It seems so, but does Aqua even know it was him? The two looked at the brunette in question and saw a malicious aura radiating from her form, causing them to take a few cautious steps back. It seemed she did. What's the matter, Aqua-chan? Are you dissatisfied with the way the townsfolk are treating you? Must be rough being such a devout follower of the Axis cult. But at least your efforts have been acknowledged by everyone, Mizuru Tilda. Naruto remarked with a smirk, and the girl let out a few dark chuckles. I'll admit your plan was clever, Naruto, but my god vision saw right through your stupid act. Aqua lunged forward and locked hands with the shinobi, their foreheads bashing together. Naruto smiled wickedly as he continued to push his forehead against Aqua's. I guess you still haven't learned your lesson. But don't worry, I still have a few tricks up my sleeve. Continue these sinful acts against God, and you shall receive divine retribution. But if you get on your hands and knees now and apologize, I may just forgive you. Aqua responded with a smile that was just as wicked. Why is Aqua fighting with Naruto? Did they have a fight? What? Why are you two staring at me like that? Darkness asked as she turned back and forth between the two, a jumbled look on her face. Kazuma and Megumin sighed deeply. It seemed Darkness was the only one of their group who didn't know the culprit of yesterday's fiasco was Naruto. Even Aqua knew. Looks like our tank is nothing but a meathead who's a glutton for pain. It's okay, Darkness. Just like with Aqua, we'll learn to accept you for who you are. Tilda, what's with you two? Shouldn't we do something about those two? Although this kind of play isn't bad. Darkness asked with a flushed face while pointing at Naruto and Aqua. Nah, I think it'd be better if we just let them get it out of their system. I still haven't spent my skill points and was thinking of spending them today, maybe I'll do that in the meantime. Kazuma casually responded and waved the night off when she looked at him in disbelief. Naruto and Aqua really like each other. They're just stubborn. Megumin added slyly. This drew Naruto and Aqua's attention, and they pushed away from one another. Who would like this selfish brat that causes more trouble than she's worth? Who would like this stalker that likes to dress up as his victims? Naruto and Aqua said at the same time while pointing at the other, then glanced at each other before looking away in a huff. I see now, how could I have not noticed it before? Anyway. Shall we go hunt some toads? Aqua, don't suddenly jump on me like that. Darkness started saying when an angry Aqua suddenly pounced on her. As the two girls wrestled, a newcomer walked over to the group. What are you doing, Darkness? After pinning Aqua to the floor, Darkness looked up, and her eyes widened when she saw her friend. Chris. This is, Aqua suddenly jumped on. I'm Chris, a thief. I'm Darkness's friend. Nice to meet you all. Chris introduced herself with a friendly wave to the group. Nice to meet you too, I'm Kazuma. Kazuma said while eyeing the girl for anything suspicious. If this girl was a friend of Darkness, who was an uncivilized masochist, then something might be wrong with her too. Chris seemed to have noticed Kazuma's intent and quickly stated her business. I couldn't help but hear you're looking for skills to learn. Might I suggest some thief skills? They're convenient and don't cost a lot of skill points to learn. Kazuma rubbed his chin in thought. As an adventurer, he was able to learn any skill so long as he was shown the ability. Having a few thief skills did sound useful, especially compared to the skills his party members were offering. Naruto squinted his eyes as he stared at Chris. I feel like I've seen this girl somewhere, but I just can't put my finger on it. Any ideas, Kurama? Oh, I've got an idea. We prank that self-proclaimed goddess standing next to you by tying her up and throwing her in a river. That way she'd drown in the very element of her title. Thanks, Kurama. It seemed the fox was still upset about Aqua using purification spells on him. Just a little. Chris squirmed under the shinobi's intense gaze. Do you want to learn thief skills too? Naruto blinked when he realized he must have been staring for too long and waved his hands. Sorry for staring. I just feel like I've seen you somewhere. You better watch yourself, this man is a ninja who likes to stalk beautiful women. Aqua said to Chris while sending the ninja in question a scornful look. Really? I heard rumors about Naruto being a player. I didn't think they were true, but he does get along with the waitresses. Chris and Megumin took a step away from Naruto, causing the boy to panic. Don't say things that'll cause misunderstandings, Aqua. I just thought I've seen Chris somewhere before. That's it. Is that so? Then perhaps you've seen me around town. Chris suggested while scratching the scar on her cheek awkwardly. Yeah, maybe. Naruto said while scratching his whisker marks. Ahem. Now then, shall we get back to the conversation at hand? Chris, I'd like to take you up on that offer for those thief skills. What do I owe you? Kazuma interjected, annoyed at the sudden focus on Naruto. Chris smiled widely. Great. Just buy me a drink, and we'll call it even. After all, thief skills are really easy to learn. Really? Then one drink for the lady please. Kazuma shouted to the waitress that was walking nearby. He was short on a wrist since they didn't go on a quest the day before, so he was glad the price to learn some new skills was this cheap. Naruto crossed his arms in thought. Should he ask to learn some thief skills too? The only one he's learned so far was the cooking skill he learned to make ramen, so it wasn't like he was short on points. Hey, Chris, mind if I learn some thief skills too? Sure, I don't mind. But you'll have to buy me some expensive wine for making me teach 2 people at once. Chris said as she picked up the drink from Kazuma. Seriously? Naruto said and considered his deflated wallet. His last prank had been rather expensive, poor Kaoru-chan. Just kidding. Seeing the panicked look on the teen's face, Chris winked and stuck her tongue out playfully. Good thing I don't have to spend the rest of my living expenses, but why do I feel like this has happened before? Naruto thought and let out a breath of relief. As the 3 walked towards the exit, Kazuma grumbled to himself. Why did she only tease Naruto? No, and not just that. What's with that guy? I'm pretty sure Aqua likes him, all the waitresses are friendly with him, and even the head receptionist Oni-chan is always asking him for help. Not that Kazuma really cared all that much, but this was his story in another world, damn it. Where was his harem of girls? Kazuma looked back at his party. Aqua was currently arguing with Darkness about the Toad quest, while Megumin was sneaking the rest of Aqua's food onto her own plate. I want to go back to Japan. Naruto and Kazuma stood in front of Chris in an alley near the Adventurers Guild. She had just finished demonstrating the lurk and enemy detection skills. This last one is my personal favorite and the most useful in my opinion. I'm going to use you for the demonstration, is that okay with you guys? Chris asked, and when the boys nodded their heads, she reached her hand out towards them. Steal. Naruto and Kazuma shielded their eyes when a flashing light shined from the silver-haired girl's hands. When the light dimmed down, Chris was revealed to be smirking as she stared at the 2 pouches of coins in her hands. Ah, my wallet. Kazuma shouted in surprise while double-checking his pockets to find them empty. Naruto felt his person and found that Kaoru-chan had been stolen as well, which really surprised him. He didn't even sense it being taken by the skill. The other techniques Chris had shown weren't all that impressive to him, as he was already a master at stealth, and could sense the negative emotions of his enemies via Kurama's chakra. But this steal skill really stood out to him. There you have it. This is the thief skill, steal. When successful, you can take one of the enemy's possessions at random. What you get is dependent on your luck stat. Chris then offered Naruto and Kazuma their bags of coins but stopped just before she was about to drop it in their hands. She then gained a mischievous glint in her eyes. Say, why don't we have a little showdown? Showdown? Kazuma asked and turned to Naruto, who shrugged. You 2 learn the steal skill and use it to try and take back your wallets from me. But that's not all you can get, this magic dagger here is easily worth 400,000 aris. Chris challenged while gesturing to the shiny dagger hanging on her hip. Oh, then don't cry when I steal something important. Kazuma declared and pulled out his adventurer's card. Looking at all the skills he could learn, he skipped past the useless party tricks skill and found the thief skills that Chris had taught him. One more thing, you also have a chance at winning one of these as a consolation prize. Chris added and revealed a few rocks in her hands, causing the teen's eyes widened. Ah, that's dirty. But it's too late to back out now, and this is the kind of thrill I've been waiting for in this world. Kazuma growled, but ultimately accepted the challenge. If there was anything he was confident in, it was his luck. Naruto grinned, he couldn't back out of the showdown now if Kazuma was going all in. So, he pulled out his adventurer's card and learned the steal skill himself. Upon selecting it, the knowledge of the skill dawned on him like an old memory. The feeling was sort of like when he received the experiences of his shadow clones. Oh, are you going to join in as well, Naruto-san? Chris asked, her mischievous smile growing. Of course, I never backs down from a challenge. Naruto responded and outstretched his hand, but not before looking at his friend. Ready, Kazuma? Yeah. With that, the boys extended their palms towards the girl and activated their new skill. Steal. X2. Ah, there you are, Kazuma. Tell this weird woman that we're not going on a toad hunting quest anymore. Aqua shouted when she saw Kazuma walk into the guild, who was then followed by Naruto and Chris. Weird. How is it weird that I only wish to go on a quest that our party would excel in? The plan that Megumin and I have created will surely. Hey, are you alright, Chris? Darkness asked, raising an eyebrow when she noticed the defeated look on her friend's face. Chris looked away in shame with teary eyes. I was completely defeated. When I taught them the steal skill and challenged him to a showdown, Kazuma stole my panties and said that all the money I had on hand wasn't enough to give them back. What are you saying all of a sudden? Although most of what you said is true. Kazuma shouted while mumbling the last part before he gulped when all the stares from the female adventurers in the guild turned ice cold. The three girls turned to Naruto for confirmation, and the shinobi nodded. It's true, and this guy was even twirling her panties in the air like a madman. I knew Kazuma was a pervert, but... Naruto added while staring at the boy in question incredulously. Ah, Naruto, you traitor. As a man, you should be on my side at times like this. I can't believe you stole Chris's magic dagger that's worth 400,000 aris and gave it back to her. Kazuma shouted while pointing an accusing finger at the shinobi. Of course I did. You were threatening to make her panties a family heirloom, and I felt bad for her. Naruto shot back and crossed his arms adamantly. Did he say 400,000 aris? And he gave it back to her. Such generosity, compared to that other guy. Maybe Naruto isn't so bad after all. Kazuma frowned when he heard the murmurs of the other adventurers talking about them. What a noisy audience. Who asked them to listen in on their conversation? Naruto learned steel as well. Megaman asked, and Naruto grinned widely. Yeah, let me show you what a real steel can do. Ah, wait, try it on me. Naruto raised his hand towards Megaman and fired off a steel, and at the same time, darkness moved in front of the little girl. What is this? Naruto questioned when he felt something weird in his hand. It was strangely soft. I've misjudged you, Naruto. To think you had this side of you all along. How wonderfully despicable. Darkness muttered through heavy breaths and a deep blush on her face, all while covering her armored chest with her hands. In Naruto's outstretched hand was Darkness's white, lacy bra. Wait a minute. This skill is luck-based. It's random. Naruto shouted in an attempt to clear his name, but it was too late. The rumors were already spreading throughout the guild like wildfire. Ah, so he really is a pervert too. He must have given that girl her dagger back to lower her guard. As expected of Naruto the player. Kazuma laughed with glee as Naruto began to panic. Ha ha ha. It's too late now, Naruto. Now I'm not the only one. Kazuma and Naruto have been leveling up recently, they must have changed their jobs to pervert. Megaman said while staring at the two boys flatly and hid herself behind the squirming darkness. What? Kazuma barked when half the stairs circled back to him. We better be careful from now on, that Hiki Neat and Stalker Ninja must have teamed up. I hereby name their allegiance, the Panty and Bra Thief brothers. Aqua declared while sticking her chest out proudly. She's proud of that name. Naruto thought with a bead of sweat rolling down his cheek before shaking his head. Now wasn't the time for that. If he didn't do something fast, then he would be forever labeled as a pervert in this town. He greatly preferred being called a delinquent over a pervert. But Naruto didn't get the chance to redeem himself when a loud voice interrupted. Them. Emergency quest. Emergency quest. All adventurers. Please head to the front gates at once, Luna-chan? Naruto questioned as he heard the head receptionist's voice calling out to the adventurers through the guild's magical speakers. What was an emergency quest? Thank for listening. I do hope you enjoy. If you guys enjoyed, if you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on the bell notifications, and also check out the other videos that L have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.